In my last tutorial, I talked about how I make custom 3D backgrounds for my WEBTOON. If you haven't seen that one already, I strongly suggest you go check it out. Anyways, in this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to actually make the backgrounds look good, especially if you're using a 3D model directly in Clip Studio Paint. There's a very big difference between just throwing in a background and hoping for the best, versus adding details and shadows to make sure the background blends in with your characters. Let's get started. For the sake of this video, I'll be making an illustration with the main characters from my WEBTOON even when the sun doesn't shine. You should go check it out! I'm working really hard on it and I try to improve the art every single chapter. The easiest way to set up backgrounds in the right perspective is to use 3D references when you draw the characters as well. That way you'll know that they're in the right size and angle for the environment. If you've already finished drawing the characters, you can still add models as a reference point just to get a rough idea of the correct placement and perspective. For this drawing, I'm just using the standard train interior that comes with Clip Studio Paint. First of all, I need to draw the characters, so I'll just go ahead and speed up the 2 hours and 50 minutes it took me to do that. Enjoy this really quick time lapse. I might post a full version of the drawing process as a separate video. We'll see. So, now that we have the characters almost finished, it's time to focus on the background. The first thing I'm gonna do is to make some line art. But no, we're not going to be drawing it by hand because that's too much work. Instead, we'll have Clip Studio Paint do it for us by going up here, or wherever it is for you, depending on your layout, and we're gonna convert it to lines and tones. You can't see it with how I recorded it, but we do not want the black fill, so just untick that option. And just like that, we have line art. Remove the white fill and make the original background normal again. You can play around with the opacity of the line art so it better suits the art style of your characters. For example, if you use really thick outlines in your art, it makes sense for the background to have thick outlines as well. I didn't like how one of the line art layers didn't follow the exact shape of the train, so I removed that layer completely. Once I'm done with the outlines, I turn the 3D layer to a normal raster layer. You don't have to do that, but I prefer it since that means I can't accidentally change the angle or something. Next up, I wanted to add some details since it looked a bit empty to the left. I added a poster because what else could I realistically put there? The poster base is available as a basic asset in Clip Studio. Then I started with some shading. When shading people, I usually use an orange color, but for backgrounds I use a cool purple shade. Because the light is coming from the window behind them, everything underneath the seat is in the shade. It's very important to remember that the characters also cast shadows onto the background. It's the #1 way to make sure they are integrated with the environment. After that, I added some 3D models outside the window. I hate drawing trees, so I always end up using this illustration. It's also available as a basic asset. Since the train is supposed to be moving, everything outside the window gets some motion blur. The objects closer to us should be more blurry than the sky, for example, since they in theory will be moving past faster. This creates the illusion of a parallax effect, but in reality it's barely going to be visible in the end since we're gonna add a transparent window and a bunch of light. I quickly went back and finished some details on the poster, and then I grabbed a watercolor brush to add some dirt all around the train, because realistically, public trains are not very clean, plus it adds a little visual interest. Aside from shadows, it's also important to add light to the background, something that I feel is often overlooked. Since parts of the train are made of metal, they will be quite reflective, so I went in with the airbrush on a glow dodge layer to add that light. And now, The most fun part? Adding the light coming in from the window. I do this on a hard light layer with the airbrush using an orange color. To make it even more intense, since I really want this light to be the focus here, I make a glow dodge layer and go over the light once more, using basically the same color. Next up, I want the characters to get some of this orange light as well. I'm gonna show you the absolute easiest way to add really good lighting. But you gotta keep it a secret between the two of us, okay? I'm basically giving you the recipe to the secret sauce over here. Listen closely. Right-click on the main shading layer and make a selection from layer. Invert the selection and make a new glow dodge layer. Now fill this entire layer with the orange color of the light. Now I know it looks a little crazy at first, but if we turn down the opacity and blur all the edges using Gaussian blur, as well as blurring the edges some more, especially on darker areas, we get the perfect lighting without putting in barely any effort at all. Doing light like this creates a big contrast in the image and I think it looks fantastic. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but goddamn, I'm a genius! The last tweaks I did was to darken the bottom of the image even more to make that contrast pop. I added a lens flare because how could I not? And then I also went crazy with some particles flying around the scene. And that's all, folks. Easy peasy. From now on, you have no excuse to let your background still look like ass, because I've shown you both how to make them, and now I've shown you how to make them look good with your characters. Get out there, make some amazing art with these tips, and I'll be seeing you next time. Bye bye!